Alright, so I left the hand class for last because this is a tricky one. Okay, hand has just a few attributes. I've got a hand ID. By the way, UUID, what that means is it's a universal unique identifier. So if I want to use UUID, I will I'll do this. In the constructor for hand, I'll say hand ID equals UUID dot random UUID. Okay, what's going to happen is UUID is going to generate a 32 character random value based on my MAC address and based on time. The value that's going to be stored in hand ID is unique, or as unique in the universe as it gets. So there should never ever be any collision between different hand IDs. Same ID with player ID and the other one. They're easy to use though. The data type of the reference type is called UUID. I've got a variable called B is scored that tells me whether or not the hand was scored. I've got an attribute called hand score, which I've referenced as HS. That's the hand score that we talked about. It's complicated enough that I want a hand score in its own class. It's only a one-to-one mapping. You can only have one hand score for a hand. So, but trust me, it's a lot easier dealing with it aside like that. I also have a private array list. Private array list called cards in hand. Cards in hand are the actual cards that are in the player's hand as the hand's being played. When the hand's being evaluated, that cards in hand should be 5. There should be 5 cards in that hand. Alright, I've got a method to add a card to a hand. I'm not exactly in love with this method called add a card to a hand because I'm passing in a card. I may go back to this one. It's a little bit dangerous. This means you can seed your own hand with your own cards. We'll go back to this one. I'd rather pass in the deck and have the deck draw, but we'll get back to this one. I've got a getter, and then I've got evaluate hand. It's a public function. What this does is it's a public instance method called evaluate hand. When this is done, it's going to pass back a hand. Okay? What this does is when I call evaluate hand, it's going to call the instance method of evaluate hand, passing in the instance that's being evaluated, and then pass it back to here. There's a reason why I'm doing it this way, and it'll be clearer in Lab 3, but just know when I call this is going to call this method here. And this method is a static private method. Okay, so I'm ready to evaluate the hand. First thing I got to do, I got to sort it. I got to sort that hand, and I sorted it by get cards in hand and get cards in hand, or excuse me, I sorted get cards in hand, which is an array of cards. And it knows how to sort it based on the compare to that I created. It sorts it based on the compare to. So I sort my hands, and now this is where it gets a bit tricky. Okay. So what I'm going to do is read the class of hand into C. Okay. And now I need to evaluate that hand. Now I already have some pre-built evaluation methods built. So let's go back to the enum for hand strength. So go back to hand strength. Look at full house. Let's take a look at the full house entry. Full house I have scored as a 70. And I have the next bit is called is full house. Is full house is what I call the evaluation method. So what I'm trying to say is I want full house to be evaluated with this method called is full house. I want flush evaluated with this method called is hand flush. The way the evaluations work is I'm going to start from the top to the next until I get one that matches. In other words, this is going to return back, this method returns back a true or false. If it's true, it's a royal flush. If it's false, it's not a royal flush. If it's false, it moves on to the next one. If it's true, it's a straight flush. If it's false, it moves to the next one. If it's false, it moves to the next one. If it's false, it moves to the next one. And once it's true, once that condition is true, then it's a straight. So I need to be able, if I could figure out a way to spin through these hand strengths from top to bottom and then evaluate each method one by one, I'll have what I need. So let's take a look at it. I have 4 hand strength H string colon hand strengths dot values. This is going to iterate around the hand strengths. It's going to start with the 100 going all the way down to 10. 1 by 1 by 1. Okay? And now I'm going to say, okay, I need to invoke a method. I need to invoke the method. So let's go back to the full house method. I need to invoke that method. Is hand full house. Is hand full house is one of the methods that I gave you. Is hand full house method signature is passing in a hand and is passing in a hand score. It's passing in a hand score, and returns back a Boolean, and it's a static method. So let's take a look how Reflections calls it. Remember, it passes in a hand strength. Excuse me, a hand score. I have to set up an array of two things, passing in a hand and a hand score. Not the values, the classes themselves. Okay. I'm saying method meth dot is equal to c.get method. In other words, within that class, get the method that's in that hand strength enum. In this case, it says is full house. And with those arguments. Okay. And when I want to invoke the method, I have to say object O equals meth.invoke null. It's the reason why it's null is because it's a static method. And I'm passing in a new object array of H and HS. H is the hand. H is the hand that I'm passing, the hand that was passed in here. HS is the hand score set here. So I'm passing in a known hand with an empty hand score into this method to evaluate. That method's going to do two things. We'll go through the code in a second, but it's going to do two things. It's going to check to see whether it's a full house or not. And if it is a full house, it's going to set hand score, which is all this. These 3 lines of code is setting the hand score. It's setting the hand strength. It's setting the high card. It's setting the high hand. It's setting the low hand. And there's no kickers in a full house. So it sets the hand score, and it'll return back true. So that method's going to return back true, and if it returns back true, the hand score is set. So let's see what happens. After that method's invoked, that either worked or didn't work, it's either going to be true or false. If it's false, I don't care about it. If it's true, right, that object is going to return back a true. O is going to be equal to true. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying if the cast of O into a Boolean is true, break. And then we know what break does. Break removes me from a for loop. Okay? So that break will stop this for loop and will push me right here in code. So let's walk through it. Royal Flush goes through, assuming I coded a full house. Royal Flush goes through. It's not a Royal Flush. Keep going. Straight Flush goes through. Not a straight flush. Keep going. Is it 4 of a kind? No, it's not 4 of a kind. Keep going. Is it full house? Yes, it's a full house. Score it. Break. And now come back down here, and I'm saying H.B is scored as true. In other words, I have that hand scored. And the hand score is what was spit out from that method that I invoked. So capture the hand score. And it looks really tricky. Believe me, it's a piece of cake. So the best thing about this is all I have to do now is implement each and every method. I've got to implement royal flush, straight flush, 4 of a kind, is hand flush, is hand straight, is 3 of a kind. Let's do one of them just so you know how it's done. 3 of a kind. I'll do it for you. And I'm going to cheat here because I'm going to steal this guy's code. I'm going to copy it up. I'm going to go to, where is it, 4 of a kind? 3 of a kind, I said. 2 pair, 3 of a kind. Give me some room to operate. Okay. The return false is me method stubbing, just so it would compile for you. I don't want to say is full house. I want to say is, what is this? 3 of a kind. Always keep your variables meaningful, right? So that's the Boolean that I'm going to return false. And now I'm going to do that, right? Okay. So what do I got? I'm saying the rules for 3 of a kind. There are 3 different 3 of a kinds. I could have, if your cards were like this, if your cards were 2, 2, 2, 3, 4, that's 3 of a kind. If your cards were 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, that's 3 of a kind. If it was 2, 3, 4, 4, 4, that's 3 of a kind. All 3 of those are 3 of a kind. So I've got to have 3 different sides of an if-then statement. What I'm saying is if the first card and the third card are the same. Read this. It says, if cards in hand that get first card that get E rank equals cards in hand third card. If the first card and the third card are the same. If the first card and third card are the same, I'm done. That's it. I don't need, there's no and. It's a three of a kind right then and there. That is it. So get our braces correct. And I think I'm good. Is three of a kind is true. Set hand strength to three of a kind. Cool. The high hand for that is going to be, you can call it the first card. You can call it the third card. It's up to you. The low hand in this case is going to be null because there is no low hand. And the kickers, okay? So if there's kickers, you got to say hs.getKickers. There it is, .add. And the card that I have to add 3 cards because there's, 2 cards. The 2 cards I want to add are h.getCardsInHand.get e card number. This case sensitive card, no dot first, second, third, fourth card. And the 5th card. And what does it look like? It's get cards in hand, get. I had it right. Let's see. Try it again. Get cards in hand dot get e card no dot 4th card. That is a get card number. What is it barking at now? Said I need another one? I don't believe that. Oh, okay, very good. I need the 4th and 5th card as my kickers. And the semicolon will be nice. There we go. Cool. The first side is done. I can get rid of this else because I know what I have to code. Is basically this. Okay, this is almost the same sort of code. I'm going to copy it right here. I'm going to say else, paste if. Else if first and third. Nah, it's not first and third anymore. It's second and fourth. Okay. Still 3 of a kind. The high card now is second. And my kickers, instead of 4th and 5th, it's still 5th, but instead of 4th, it's first. I think I got it right. I need the last leg done. I'm going to copy it, paste it. Instead of the 2nd and 4th, it's the 3rd and 5th. 3 of a kind still. 3rd is my card. And now it's 1st and 2nd are my kickers. There we go. Format my stuff. I'm all good. I think I got it. Any errors? I don't see any errors. All right, let's code this to see if it works. So I'm going to go over to test, and I already have a test for you for test full house. Let's give you a test for test 3 of a kind. And I'm going to just steal some code. Matter of fact, I'm going to steal all this code. There we go. And give me and braces, and let's set up a 3 of a kind. Test 3 of a kind. 3 of a kind will be 3 3. Let's say 3 2. There we go. 3 2 4 4 4. That's a 3 of a kind. I'm going to evaluate that hand, and I'm going to check to see if that hand was a 3 of a kind. Let's see if it does it. It's not a full house. 3 of a kind. Run my JUnit. Run as a JUnit test. It runs. That is a 3 of a kind. So, if that's a 3 of a kind, what's the high hand going to be? The high hand for this should be 4. I think. Still 4. Should be 4. Because 4 is the 3 of a kind. Very good. The kickers should be 2. This is saying how big the kickers are. In full house it's 0. The kickers should be 2. Awesome. That's how you do it. you've got to do now tests for